Okay, so let's talk about book buying bans, kind of, but also like how I plan on like the kind of, we'll call it game, or like rule system I have with myself this year on how to buy less books. Okay, so I'm gonna try to be to the point with this because I tried to start filming this once and I wasn't making sense, so then I stopped, and then I refilmed the whole thing without audio, so third time is the charm. I currently have a TBR of about 180 books. This is a little too high for me personally. I would like to have, if I were to think of like my TBR number of like what I would want my TBR to be, it would be from like 60 to 75 books. I read about 100 plus a little over books a year. I like to utilize my library in addition to reading books that I already own. So the idea of like being able to go through my entire TBR in 1 year and like check all those boxes if I want to is kind of like where I landed with that number, why I landed on that number. I really enjoy using my library, so I don't ever want all of the books that I read to come from my physical TBR. At the same time, I love the process of buying books. I am a huge fan of going to used bookstores and hunting for like hunting around for books and like trying to find books that like I'm interested in and finding them at a cheap price. It's just like endorphins everywhere. I also just want to say that like I recognize that the whole conversation of like buying books and acquiring books and being able to say, hey, I just want to go on a book buying ban because I own too much or whatever, is like a very privileged perspective, and it's something that not everyone like finds themselves in. However, I am on BookTube. You can see behind me that I own quite a number of books, so just kind of setting the stage there. As I've been kind of tackling this issue with myself of like my TBR growing, not wanting to own a ton of books that I haven't read versus reading library books, and like kind of how to mash those two things together. I've kind of been dealing with this like concept or what feels like, what's the word I'm looking for? Contradiction in my own head. But I've also been watching people's videos about this and like kind of trying to formulate a way to incorporate practices into my own reading life so that I can reduce my physical TBR. One of the first things you could do that a lot of people do, and where some of the inspirations for this, is go on a book buying ban. I was watching Rincey at Rincey Reads video about it, and she's going on a no-buy year, and most of that is around books. And then I've seen David at David Wiley and Greg at another bibliophile reads, I believe. I'll link everyone below. I watched them talk about doing this challenge that didn't originate with them. I don't actually know who it originated with, of like trying to read 100 books off of your physical TBR before you buy another book. And so that's like a type of buying ban. And I think that, you know, it's up to everyone on how that's going to work. It will, like, if that works for you, great. A book buying ban will never work for me. I cannot limit myself when there feels like no reason to limit myself. Like the second I do, I'm just going to want to buy books. Like I tried it out in December because just to see how it would go, and I just kept wanting to buy books. Like I just kept wanting to go out to my used bookstore when I normally don't have that type of compulsion. So I know that's not going to work for me. However, I can't do what I have been doing and just buying books whenever I want, because I always tell myself like, oh, Elle, like you can control yourself, you can moderate yourself, this is easy. Just don't buy as many books. I tell myself that, and then I go to a used bookstore and I find an entire series for $2 a book, and I go to my partner and I go, well, you know, I really shouldn't buy these because I came up with this like book buying ban thing, and like I really should reduce my TBR. I want to reduce my TBR. And then he looks at me and he goes, when do you ever buy yourself anything? They're $1. Just buy the freaking books. And I'm like, you're right. So this is the situation I'm in. I also really love going out to used bookstores. I enjoy being at a used bookstore. I enjoy the hunt. I enjoy like putting my money into used bookstores. I want them to exist. I want them to be around, and I'm going to put my dollars there and pay for with my dollars and put them there so that they stick around. However, I'm not a rocket scientist, but if you buy more books than you read from your TBR will always be increasing. And while my TBR has not increased over the past few years, last year it went down by 4 books. So that had nothing to do with the number of books I was reading from my TBR. It had to do with the number of books I was buying. So here we are, focusing on how am I going to buy less books. And the true inspiration for this really came from Maddie at Book Browsing Blog and her book buying ban bingo. I'll link her below. She has a lot of really fun like book challenge ideas that she does on her channel that are pretty creative. So she does like darts attack for her TBRs, and now she has this like book buying bingo ban. There's a lot of B's. So I liked that idea of like kind of giving yourself prompts that you can achieve in order to like get book tokens. What I'm doing is not a game, but it's a way of keeping myself accountable. And I love data, and I document every book I read and every book I own. So I figured like we'll just document one more thing. The point, I guess, is that I'm trying to take bookish goals I have and these things I want to accomplish, combine them, make those turn into points, and make a certain number of points turn into a book I can buy, a book token, we'll call it. That's what she called it in her video. So my thought process right now is for every 3 prompts I achieve, I can buy a book. Not every book I read will have a prompt associated with it, but we'll go through what my prompts are, because I'm connecting them to my goals for the short term, and then also just other kind of things I want to be doing in my reading, but I might forget about. The first one is series continuation, so not starting a new series, but actually completing a series I'm already reading. And for this, I'm not counting like companion novels, like if I'm reading like the second book in a romance series. It's more of a companion, like I'm more talking like series, that continuation where the plot continues. The next one, I came out with a video of 22 nonfiction books I want to read in 2022. So reading books off of that. Classics around the world. That's another goal I had in my 2022 goals video or intentions video, which is to read classics from around the world, lesser known classics within the United States or within North America, just like classics that you don't really like hear as much about or that don't get as much airtime, and also just like the diversifying my classics reading. The one after that is TBR balance. So just, do I have like, what's her name's videos? Emma at Drinking by My Shelf. She does like her TBR balance, book balance every month. I have like a spreadsheet that I totally ripped off of her idea where I do that, where I can see like how many books I acquired, how many books I got rid of, and just see what my balance is from month to month. So if that balance is negative, like I'm like good, like I own now less than what I started with at the beginning of the month, then I get a point. Books purchased this quarter, so part of this is that when you own less books, you have less books to choose from, so you're more likely to read books that you've purchased more recently. And I kind of lose steam on books. Like, I'll buy a book and I'll be really interested in it, but I have like 1,000 other books to read. So then I deprioritize it and then I lose interest. Like, not forever, but like I'm not as like anticipatory of like picking it up. I don't know if that's an actual way of using the word anticipate. So that's kind of like just kind of trying to get my reading closer to when I purchased the book. So that's that one. TBR vet roll. A lot of channels like will do like games to like kind of pick their TBR. They'll pull prompts out of a cup or whatever. I have like a lot of books on my TBR that I've owned for a long time that I would like to prioritize. So I have a list of them, ones that I own physically and ones that I own on my Kindle. And then I roll my D20 for both of those. And then whichever one, I can read those in the month. And if I do, then I get a point. And then if I don't, then nothing happened. Next one, friend books. So in my 1001 books tag, I talked about how I had a coworker who was a big reader who passed away. And before he had passed away, he had sent me the list, his TBR, the list of books he wanted to read. And he hadn't gotten to all of them. So kind of to honor him, I would like to read those books. And they're not books that I necessarily tend to pick up or own. We had very different reading tastes. So I wanted to put this on here to kind of remind myself to pick up those books and to give priority to them because as I said, I don't own really any of them. And then the next one, I have this as Indigenous Reading Circle, but I also think I want to add the 1001 Books challenge that's hosted by Sandy, or like reading club, book club. That's, goodness gracious, it's been a long day. Just like book clubs, I guess, that I want to participate in. So the Indigenous Reading Circle is hosted by Danny and Aaron on Instagram, and for the first half of the year, they're reading short story collections, and the second half of the year, they're reading speculative fiction by Indigenous authors. So there's a few I want to participate in, so I'm going to give myself credit when I read those in the month. And then there are a few books I want to participate in for the 1001 Books Reading Club that is hosted by Sandy at Miss Reads a Lot. So I'll include those as well. And then Little Black Books. So I up there have a collection of like 80 Penguin classics that are like the small ones. I don't know if they're actually called Little Black Books, but that's like what their name is in my head. And I don't actually have them counted on my TBR because I lie to myself. So I have 80 books, about 80, that I have unread that I don't count on my TBR. So I never pick them up because I don't get to pull anything from my TBR when I read them, so they're counting now. Eventually I will move them onto my TBR, but it would increase my TBR by like almost 80 books, and like mentally I can't handle that, so it is what it is. I just lie to myself instead. And then the last one is vlog projects. So I love the concept of doing vlogs, but then like when I actually go to do them, I lose a lot of steam with them. And I've like just have failed vlogs. Like I've been halfway through a vlog for like 2 months. So this would be like a spark to get me to do that. So more like booktube related stuff as opposed to reading related, which I guess it's all related because I'm on booktube. Anyway, I'm in a super rambly mood. Let's like look at what my little spreadsheet looks like. Okay, so I'll have it on the screen. So what you will see is that I'm already in debt because I came up with this idea after I had purchased 8 books. This is why I needed this idea. I think I have to, like, if I'm still in debt at the end of February, like, I have to, like, somehow make it harder, like, maybe have to do more prompts to, like, get the next book, or something like that, but I haven't quite decided. But, yeah, this is kind of what it looks like. This is how I'm going to be keeping track. I just kind of have the spreadsheet set up so I can just, like, touch the arrow down and I could figure out what book I want to add to it. Anyway, I don't need to tell you much more, but this is what it looks like. This is how I'm going to be keeping track. I don't know if this is something people would want to see in like my wrap-ups. I was just kind of going to do it on the DL, but just to let you know I'm doing it in this video. But yeah, I think that's all I have for this video. Let me know kind of your ideas around TBRs and physical TBRs and like how you use the library, and like, do those two notions conflict for you like they do for me? I'm just really curious about your thoughts. Thank you for being here, and until next time, happy reading.